So, Michael, you have a sampan behind you. That's pretty cool. A flat bottom, high rear keeled boat for small waterways.
So it's not a junk. I'm Michael.
I'm Chris.
We're Breaking Impossible.
So, we're talking about the 12 tools today?
Yeah, well, we talked about the first 4 in the last video. And so today we're going to talk about the middle 4. And we'll start with the first one, which is the 5th tool. And it's your favorite because it's a numbered list inside of a numbered list.
It is, yeah. It's nothing better than a numbered list inside a numbered list, that's for sure.
The 310s.
It's the clickbait for the clickbait.
So yeah, I got to tell you, I really struggled with articulating that concept. And it's not complicated. It's just the idea of getting outside for 30 minutes per day and breaking it up into 3 sections, one at night and one in the morning. So you're getting the proper sunlight for sleep optimization. And then one in the middle, and that can either be at the beginning or the end or in the middle. It doesn't really matter. But trying to figure out how to explain that, especially in writing, I found that very difficult. The good news is I got lots of positive feedback on that short video, and no one complained about the numbered list within the numbered list. And I asked a few people if they understood what I meant, and they said they did. So it is hard to explain. So the idea is to go outside as early as you can after you wake up. If their sun isn't out when you wake up, you need to turn on as much bright light. And I'll just back up and talk about light. We're meant to be awake during the day. We're meant to be asleep at night. So you want to get as much bright light during the day as you can, and you want to avoid that light as much as you can at night, especially as you're getting ready to go to sleep. So when you first wake up in the morning, I wake up too early for the sunlight, so I have to turn on as many bright lights as I can to sort of mimic that effect. And then as soon as the sun rises, I try to go out for at least 5 to 10 minutes. And it doesn't have to be 5 to 10 minutes. It can be longer. Any shorter than that, you're probably not going to get enough of that light that helps set your clock. And you might have to go out longer than that if it's overcast. It might take a lot more than 5 or 10 minutes. But general idea is just to get up and get moving and to go outside. And this is the whole thing that you and I are both advocating for, right? Is being outside as much as possible, moving as much as possible. And so I'm suggesting 3 times a day, do both. Go outside and move as much as you can. And calling it the 310s just makes it an easy concept, right? 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes sometime during the day, 10 minutes at night, or just before it becomes night. Have you been doing it?
Ask me again in a month.
Okay.
I mean, dawn is like 8:30 or 9, so I'm usually commuting before. And then during the day, I do get out because I walk over to get some lunch or something. And then and then I don't leave until hours after it's dark because it still gets dark around 4:30. So
right, because you're in Sweden. I should tell you that it's winter here in Seattle, so until recently there wasn't any sunlight until I was in my car and driving to work.
Exactly.
So what I would try to do is keep my window rolled down wherever possible, even if it was just at stoplights, especially the long stoplights, to try to add, because it's cumulative. But when I got to work, I made an excuse to go outside and do a walk to get that early sunlight. And another thing you can do is just park yourself next to a very large window and try to get as much light. It's not as good as it is outdoors, but it's better than nothing. And so there are little tricks that you can do, like I don't wear sunglasses anymore unless the sun's directly in my eyes. And I'm not telling people you shouldn't wear sunglasses, especially if you have eye problems. You need to be concerned about that. But I don't use the sun visor like I used to do as much. I keep my sunroof open. Even if it's not open, I keep the shade part open so that I'm getting more light into the car. I didn't tint the windows on my car this time, whereas I had done last time, all in an effort to try to get more light. And the more research that I do, the more I've discovered that, you need at least a minimum of an hour, really, of daylight every day. And the more daylight you get, the better, for all kinds of reasons. One of the books I read, The Circadian Code, and I'll put it in the links. The researcher who wrote the book, Sachin Panda, he lived in a very remote place, I think in Africa, where he was camping outdoors, and so he got lots of bright sunlight during the day, and he slept better than he'd ever slept. And he compared in the book analysis of his sleep when he first moved back to where he normally would live, and the comparisons are quite striking. When he was living outside, like people have done for a long time, right? His sleep was considerably improved. So the more light you get, the better you're going to sleep, and that's one of the main benefits of it. But there's all kinds of other psychological benefits and health benefits, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you really should put up, not just in the description here, those links, but on our page somewhere on the breakingimpossible.com, just a library of all this stuff, because I'm
Yeah.
sure some people listening think, light, well, I get light. Of course I get light. But they're probably underestimating some of the nuance and the importance of outside light. Like at some point, I can't remember exactly whether I was reading it in some of the articles you shared or you were describing it to me, but talking about how it has to do with the angle of the light in through your lens, your eyeball lens, and that it's the refraction and prevention of UV through car glass specifically that has multi-layer plastics inside and whatever, all this different stuff. And so it's easy to follow the advice, go outside, don't wear glasses outside or whatever. Or even, no, you were saying even glasses can help because it's actually focusing it. But in any case, the
Yes.
advice is simple. The reasoning, actually, you've spent quite a bit of time reading up on it, and not just other YouTube searches, but actual medical papers, these researchers like you just mentioned from the book and so on. So it'd
Yeah.
really be worthwhile to put that up in a library or something.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And the thing I usually say at the beginning of our videos is to go outside, do hard things, and to keep moving forward. The go outside part, I credit you with, but it's really super important. Viewing nature lowers your blood pressure. You need to be outside as much as you can. It's just good for your soul, and not to mention your mental health and your physical health.
Metaphorically, because we're not doctors, but we're also not priests. So what may or may not be good for your soul is our best guess.
Please consult your own spiritual advisor.
Exactly. All right, so that's the 310s. What's number 6?
Well, number 6 is also movement. And, I thought long and hard about whether I should make that number 6 or not, because the 310s is about movement, but they are distinctive. The 310s is about going outside as much as you can and getting out at least 30 minutes a day. If more people just got outside for 30 minutes a day, there would be a lot of benefit to that for those people that did so. But in truth, you need to move as much as you can throughout the day. So whether you're stuck in an office or in a car, you still want to get out as much as you can. It's just like when you go on a long trip, right? You usually try to stop and take breaks and get up and move around. You need to do the same thing when you're sitting. Sitting by itself, sitting in and of itself isn't necessarily bad for you. Sitting too much is, and sitting for too long a period of time. And I'm sure you've experienced this before. I have it happen all the time. If I sit for too long, when I get up to move, it's difficult just to get up out of my chair. And I don't think that's age related. I think that has to do with just sitting too long. And the more you get up and move around, the better. And again, it's a cumulative thing. If you do 5 or 10 minutes here and there, it adds up, and it can be, a couple of hours a day if you're doing it right. What do you do? Do you have a place where you can do stairs? I have a 5-story building that I try to go up and down those stairs as much as I can.
Yeah, our office is on the 9th floor, so often I'm going up and down those. And also, since I live on one hump of land called an island, and then I walk down to basically sea level and then up to another hump of land. I do stairs lots during the day.
Yeah. Well, you're also
Yeah.
walking to and from work, aren't you?
Yeah, that's a couple of miles easy every day. Actually, it's 4 miles back and forth. So,
So you're doing 4 miles a day just in your commute.
yep. Although it's just walking, I'm not running it mostly. Not these days.
Oh,
Too
that's still
icy.
4 miles. Four miles is 4 miles, right?
Yep. With stairs, I'm happy to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to go up and down those stairs at least 5 or 6 times a day. And I can tell you that the 15 years I've worked in that building, I've only been in the elevator a handful of times. And it's usually when I had to be. Was bringing somebody else up that couldn't take the stairs.
Right.
Um, so yeah, number
Cool.
6 is just movement in general terms and moving as much as possible. And again, it's probably the most important, one of the most important things you can do to improve your health and your sleep is to get as much movement throughout the day. Being active and being consistently active, it's sort of a self-reinforcing thing, right? The more you get up and move around, the more you want to, and the more you're able to do. And it makes it easier to get in those 5 to 10 minute, spurts of activity, or to go for that short walk or that short run in addition to, because you're already sort of in an active mode, if that makes any sense.
Yep. Yes, we often say the hardest thing is actually just getting out the door. Once you've gotten there, you're actually going to probably go do something. So,
Yeah, and there's a benefit of movement in terms of your psychological well-being.
yeah,
Once
yeah,
you start moving forward and your eyes are going from side to side, things happen inside your brain that affect the rest of your body and make it easier to keep doing that.
yeah,
But it's initiating it that matters,
yeah,
right? It's getting in
exactly.
the habit of continually getting up and moving around as much as you can throughout the day.
Yep, yep, yep.
And then the seventh tool is a little controversial because you and I have talked about this quite a lot. It has to do with hydration. And originally, when I was composing the 12 tools, I just said drink water, and it reminded me of that song Wear Sunscreen. Do you
Okay.
remember the song?
No.
Yeah. So there was a song a few years ago called Wear Sunscreen, Baz Luhrmann. Basically, he read this speech to a graduating class, and it's a list of advice to graduating seniors. And it was originally attributed to Kurt Vonnegut, but it was actually a woman at the Chicago Sun-Times. But anyway,
Hmm.
it was a popular song, and it was popular enough that there was a parody song done called "Drink Beer" by Dennis Leary. So instead of
Ah.
wear sunscreen, it was drink beer, and he gave a humorous list of advice. Drink water is how it made me think of that song. So I think we've talked about it before in other videos, but you're a fan of Adam Ruins Everything?
Yeah, I think hydration is overblown, right? I'm
Yeah,
sure if they're not trying to do it, they've at least heard that they probably should think about trying to do it. Drink 8 glasses of water a day, or
yeah,
all of this stuff, and water bottles with like how much you should drink a day and all that. It's just overblown, right? And I
yeah.
think that the best critique of it is from Adam Ruins Everything, just on hydration. The
So I watched that video,
mhm.
and I was immersed in reading the scientific studies. And one of the things you and I talk about is how journalists cover science stories. And often there's a consensus, and when any new study comes out that seems to contradict that consensus, then all of a sudden that becomes the cause célèbre, and that's what everybody's talking about. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. There's just one study. What was previously thought to be true may well still be true, but that's not interesting, right? It's more interesting when you contradict something. So that becomes something that gets repeated in the news stories. And although you're right, there's no science that says a specific number of glasses a day is required. And it has been kind of overblown in terms of everybody being obsessed about it. It's still important, and people still become dehydrated. And it's very important to stay hydrated for performance, and it's very important to stay sufficiently hydrated for sleep. And
So I guess I would just ask you though, like, how do you know you need more?
well, you're right. When you feel thirsty is generally sufficient,
Yep.
what most of the science says. However, everyone's different. And if you're in an air conditioned building, If you are an older person, there are all kinds of things, genetic differences, just like with caffeine. And you know full well, because you've been out with me on my long runs, on some of my long runs, I often forget to eat and I often forget to drink water. And it's easy for people to become dehydrated if they're not paying attention to it. So what I'm saying is pay attention to it. And the reason it's so important, especially for somebody like you and me, or you and I, whichever it is, what is it? You and me? You and I.
Depends on the rest of the sentence.
But when you're doing an ultra event of any sort, where you're out there for hours or days, hydration is critical. If you get behind on calories, you can catch up. All you have to do is eat. But you can't catch up once you're dehydrated fast enough to make the difference. It just takes too long. It can take an entire day. It can take a couple of days before you get back to where you're supposed to be. And by that time, the event's over and you've had to quit because you weren't feeling well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's part of the non-overblown part though that I want us to be very careful about, right? Because there's a big difference between us doing 100 kilometers or an overnight thing or being outside on a trail doing even just a hike for all of that time, right? 24 hours, 36 hours, all the things we've done.
Mm-hmm.
But most people, and you and I, even in our everyday life, aren't doing that. So, like the drink water, yes, it's a very good idea. Drink when you're thirsty. That's sufficient. If in the off chance that you are doing some ultra endurance special exercise thing, yeah, okay, be aware of it. Drink some more. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and what I'm suggesting is that you should pay attention to it.
Yeah.
You should make sure you drink before, during, and after exercise. And you should make sure that you're getting enough hydration throughout the day so that you'll get good quality sleep.
Well, so the funny thing about that is like the opposite is almost true for me, honestly. Like I tend to drink too much. Like drinking, not necessarily alcohol kind, everybody, but drinking is like a comfort, whether it's
Yeah.
water or anything else. So,
So
yeah, be aware,
yeah,
be cautious, watch it. Yeah, I agree with all
you
that.
don't want to drink too much too close to bedtime, obviously. And we should say that you can drink too much water. People can die if they're doing an ultra event and they're drinking too much water. It's a thing. It's a problem. But it's still something that you need to pay attention to. Yeah, I think of all those times when people pass out at events because they're excited about whoever's speaking or whatever concert they're at or whatever it is. They just forget to drink water and then they pass out because they're dehydrated. It's a real issue that people need to be concerned about, especially if you're trying to be active and especially if you're trying to focus on having good sleep.
Yeah. Nuance, that's all I'm saying. I don't disagree, of course.
Yeah.
But I do want you to sing the beer song now.
I'm trying to decide if I'm going to leave that in the video.
You should. You totally should.
I'll send you the link for wear sunscreen. It'll make you laugh.
You should leave all that in. But you haven't gotten to number 8 yet.
No, I haven't. So that's our diet thing. So number 8 is where we talk about eating a sensible diet. And diet was something that I had avoided talking about deliberately because there's so much controversy about it. But after you and I talked about whether or not we should endorse the Mediterranean diet, and at the time you said, no, let's not endorse any particular diet. Right about the same time as I was doing research on this, especially in how it affects sleep, it has to do with your clock, how it affects your clock for sleep. You sent me that thing about, I'll let you say it. How's it go? What's the advice?
I don't know which part.
Eat breakfast like a king.
Oh, that one, yeah. No, I was noting while I was in Hong Kong running the trails and everything over there, while I was there for visa things, that I ate too late at night and it ruined my sleep. And that, I asked you, like, what do you think about that old adage? I think I really better pay attention to it, to eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper.
I didn't realize you were in Hong Kong when you sent me that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it ruined my sleep and then it put me all off my training for like 2 days.
Yeah, it can have a profound effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So eating too late, especially because it raises your body temperature. And in order to get optimum sleep, your body temperature needs to fall almost a full degree as you're getting ready for bed. As you fall, it falls throughout the night, but that's part of the cycle, is having your temperature go down and your heart rate go down. And that doesn't happen if you eat a huge meal at 9 o'clock at night and you're trying to go to bed at 10. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for your stomach, and it doesn't work for everything else that has to do with how you sleep. So that led me to, I think that's how I got involved in reading about the circadian code, Satchin Panda's work. He'd been talked about elsewhere when we're talking about sleep, but time restricted eating is what you and I have been doing now for, I think you've been doing intermittent fasting of some sort for at least the last 5 years, haven't you?
So not constantly, not but consistently. So from time to time, like for months at a time, I will go ahead and do that. Yeah.
And you're doing an early time restricted eating protocol right now?
Uh, More or less. That seems to be the easier one. It's not really by choice. I would prefer to eat a bigger breakfast, but the issue is, even like tonight, it's nighttime here. It's almost what? It's almost 7 o'clock. So I will. No, it's almost 8 o'clock. So I haven't eaten dinner. I got left work straight into this, and so I won't be able to eat until 9. So
Mm-hmm.
then again, it just makes sense then to skip breakfast and everything, because otherwise I have no time, right? It's only 8 or 10 hours.
So this tonight you're going to eat dinner, but then you're going to skip breakfast.
Yes.
All right, so let's explain what time restricted eating is. Concept is to eat all of your meals within a shorter window than what the average American does. The average American eats for more than 12 hours a day. So anything less than 12 is better. The science that I've seen seems to be that anything under 11 hours is quite a bit of makes quite a bit of an impact on your health. And I try to do at least 10 hours. So a 14-10 is how it's represented. Most of the time I'm doing 16 or 18 hours. Basically, all we're doing is we're extending our fast overnight. And you can do that one of two ways. You can there's a number of ways you can do it. You can eat an earlier dinner. You can eat a later breakfast. You can skip dinner altogether. And we're not advocating for people to skip meals. Please, people, if you're hypoglycemic or a diabetic or whatever else, you need to talk to your own doctor. But a lot of people will follow a time restricted eating protocol by skipping breakfast on a regular basis. This is one of the more popular ones. The more research I do, the more convinced I am that it's better to do what they call eTRE, early time restricted eating. That is where you eat an early dinner or no dinner, and you eat early after waking. And the reason I say that is because you and I try to be active. We're doing a lot of endurance stuff. And I think it's important to eat within an hour, especially to get protein within an hour of heavy exercise. So since I do my exercise in the morning, I tend to want to eat a breakfast within an hour of having done that exercise. So for me, and I think you said you were doing something very similar, that means if I end up working late, I may choose to skip dinner altogether because it gets too close to bedtime.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that, but I just get too hungry because, like, basically, when I wake up, I don't particularly feel hungry, so I often just wait till lunch. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, I do that too if I'm not exercising.
but what's funny is on the weekends it's reversed. Like I eat, it's easier for me to skip dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Comfort probably of some kind.
There does seem to be some evidence that keeping a routine is better, just like keeping a sleep schedule, a regular sleep schedule is better. But there's also some science out there that says it's better to stagger it, to alternate
Yeah.
the number of hours. I think it depends on your individual circumstances. Again, for me, if I'm doing heavy exercise, then I'm going to make sure I eat early because I'm doing that exercise in the morning. And if I'm taking a day off from doing a run, then I might not eat breakfast and wait until later in the day, or even go as much as 20 or 24 hours without eating. There's a lot of buzz about cold exposure out there and its benefits for health and longevity. And similarly, the same thing is true about doing anything that mimics hardship. So exercise is one way of doing that, right? Because your body's stressed. And another way of doing that is increasing the amount of time that you go without eating. The advice that I keep reading and hearing is to eat less and to eat less often for both improvements in health span and lifespan. And time restricted eating, one of the benefits seems to be just the fact that you end up consuming fewer calories if you eat within a shorter window in general terms. And I think that's true, by the way, if you quit drinking alcohol. I know that I eat a lot less, especially a lot less of the bad things when I don't drink. And I haven't been drinking for over a year, so I've been eating a lot less desserts, for example, because I was more inclined to have that dessert if I'd had a cocktail or two. Anyway, the other thing I think that you and I both have come to the conclusion is that there's sufficient evidence and science out there that says a Mediterranean diet is a good one.
Yeah,
True?
my objections to all of this, yeah, so far in the massive studies, so tens of thousands of people over decades,
Yes.
that one has really quite proved itself out. I think my objection is that anyone listening to this, like, I don't want to give you advice. Like, you're going to have to get started yourself. We've been working on this for years and years,
Yes.
and we've come to the point where, okay, this makes sense for us at this moment.
Yes.
But there's a ton of ways to get to that point, and like, these are great tools. I love them, and I use them, but it's you got to feel your own way towards them, towards
Yeah.
anything. It's got to work for you. That's the most important thing. It's got to be fun. You got to be involved in a community. You got to get out there. You got to do all of these things, but there's no prescription to doing that. You've got to find it for yourself.
Yeah. There, likewise with the time restricted eating, there are literally hundreds of studies over a very long period of time that suggest that there are benefits from doing it. Just it's well studied.
So, on that note, I don't know if you saw the article I sent to you just this morning from the New York Times about the health of pleasure.
I haven't read it yet.
Okay, so I won't spoil it for you then, just to say that this person did the research that says yes, but depriving yourself of things is also unhealthy.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
important to
So
balance. Balance is the most important thing. The other thing that's interesting in that article is because, people do hear about, oh, the new science, or the science says this and now it changes its mind to that and so forth. And yes, that does seem to happen. But the funny thing is the core evidence actually remains super steady. I think that was the other article I sent you, speaking of counted lists, or like 10 myths that doctors wish would go away. And one of them was that the advice for healthy living, eating, whatever, changes all the time. And they were saying the advice that was written down in the 50s is the same as it was now, just nuance. So anyway.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, I'm doing really well because I run, I lift things, and I eat real food.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I I liked saying we're not advocating a particular diet, and we're not counting calories. But I think that if somebody were to ask me my opinion, I would recommend the Mediterranean diet. I would say it's a good one. But you're right. You got to choose what you're going to like and whatever you're going to stick to. And this is like the core thing that we're trying to do, right? Is to get people to be more active and stick to it. This is what we've been trying to do ourselves. And I think that that's a good way to help make it easier to do that. Similarly, the most recent science about the limits of alcohol and how much is okay, and the Canada is now saying none, and that's a big move. I've been studying this now for over the last 2 years, and so I'm not surprised that they finally come to that. But you're right, the science was, oh, a little bit's good for you, and this is good for it. Kept changing over time, so people shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know what to believe. Well, I think that it's better to slow down, and I don't want to say don't drink at all, or you have to do this particular diet, or you're not going to succeed. I think you're right. You need to find something that works, especially within your lifestyle. So do hard things, go outside, and keep moving forward.
We'll see you out there.